2 days ago on the eve of Thursday, Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte decided to place Imperial Metro Manila on a lockdown. They also call it community quarantine, and the purpose of which is to contain the spread of the dreaded China-made novel coronavirus, which we now know as COVID 2019. Just a few days ago, World Health Organization also decided to declare that this case is now pandemic. This is because a lot of countries have been impacted by this virus that came from China. And President Donald Trump, for example, during the last week of January, decided to stop the inflows of travels coming from China into the United States, and also after that he also decided to block the entry of travels coming from Europe into the United States in order to contain the spread of the virus throughout the US. And the President of the United States, as expected, was called a racist or xenophobic for trying to protect Americans from that dreaded China-made virus. For example, the presidential contenders of the Democratic Party, Biden and the communist Bernie Sanders, accused President Trump of being a racist or anti-Chinese for blocking travels from China into the US. But now it's now proven that that action of President Trump was actually a good thing, that it's probably saved thousands, or not, if not even millions of Americans from being infected from the dreaded virus. Now back to the Philippines. After the declaration of the WHO of the pandemic level of this case, and after President Donald Trump declared travel ban of all travels coming from Europe, but not actually absolute travel ban, because according to reports, some travels were exempted. We don't know, but only after then that President Duterte decided to act. Considering our proximity to China and considering the fact that Philippines is doing a lot of business and trades with China, we have the POGO or the POGO that is heavily infested with Chinese money and employees. So that's one thing that is really alarming, because the Philippines is now I don't want to use the word infested, but we are now getting lots and lots of Chinese nationals working in the Philippines, which I don't really complain about that, because that's how globalization works. We also send a lot of Filipinos to work in Singapore, for example, but not only in Singapore but also in China, in Chinese territories like Taiwan, and what else? Hong Kong. So, that's a quid pro quo. But what is alarming is Mr. Duterte's delayed response. And now he decided that it's now time to place Metro Manila on a lockdown, and we don't know to what extent they're gonna implement that lockdown. But what we all know today is that it's gonna start tomorrow, on March 15th, Sunday, and it's gonna last up to 30 days thereafter. So 30-day lockdown of the Metro Manila region, but it's not absolute or full lockdown. It's actually partial. So the issue here is, what do we need to expect during the duration of this lockdown, and what can we contribute as individuals or citizens of this country? So, I'm actually doing this. This is a live screenshot, and as you can see, I'm on Twitter. So the top trends on Twitter are Corona apocalypse. So this is worldwide trend. As you can see, this is still the main topic since last month. Okay, so but let's go back to the main topic, which is the lockdown of Metro Manila. So it's not full lockdown, it's not absolute lockdown, it's not strict lockdown, it's partial. And the good thing is, businesses are actually so concerned about this because it's going to affect their bottom line. Okay, if you're an employee, you should be thankful if your company is doing something for you, for both of you. Okay, in order uh, that this crisis is not gonna affect you in the business. Okay, so but first thing that we need to do as individuals during this lockdown period is wag magpasaway. Okay, so wag magpanic. Don't panic. Okay, the worst thing that you can do during a crisis is to panic, and that's what's going on in the United States. A lot of people were like flooding Walgreens, Walmart, and all those grocery stores, and they're causing, you know, chaos. And that's the worst thing to do during an infection crisis because if if you're gonna like for example, a lot of people were like fighting for what do you call this, tissue paper. That's gonna be the worst way to spread the virus. Okay, because the one of the ways to spread coronavirus is contact. Okay, contact. Apart from that, coughing or touching um, surfaces or other people. So it's physical contact, and it's also airborne. So if you're gonna cough, you might spread out viral particles that may land on other people's, faces or surfaces. So it's the worst thing to do is to panic. Now, the best thing to do as individuals is to do a lot of research, and that's what I've been doing over the past few days. So, knowledge is power. Okay, knowledge is power. It's very powerful. So, I learned during my research that this is called novel coronavirus because, well, coronavirus has been here, for a long time. Well, it's probably been here for hundreds of years. We just don't know, but they just discovered it recently, and they named it coronavirus. So it's been here since 1980s, but this has, unique traits. That's why they call it novel coronavirus, and it came from Wuhan, China. So there's a lot of things here to cover. So there are a lot of ways for you to know that you may have contracted or you might have been infected with the coronavirus, and that one of which is, I call it CFS, coughing. Okay, if shortness of breath as well, and fever. Okay, coughing, shortness of breath, and fever. That's an indication, well, the main symptoms of the novel coronavirus. And if you think you have the symptoms, you need to be tested. So, testing must be voluntary. Okay, a lot of people in the United States, for example, the liberal media in the United States were like urging the president of the US, Donald Trump, to be tested or to have himself tested because he might have contracted coronavirus. It turned out that, the guy who contracted coronavirus was the wife of Justin Trudeau in Canada. Okay, and Tom Hanks as well. So these are all haters of President Trump in the U.S. So okay, so as long as we know the symptoms, then we should have, this idea whether we contracted the virus. And of course, since this is a respiratory virus, we need to protect ourselves as well. Always make sure that we intake vitamin C, that we need to be very healthy during the duration of this this lockdown. So again, it's gonna run up until 30 days from March 15. So bawal magpasaway, bawal magkalat ng virus. So the best thing to do is again study, do some research for yourself, okay, and make sure that you're not gonna spread out not just virus but fake news as well, okay, because if you get to know fake news or fake information, then that's the worst thing to protect yourself from the virus. Okay, so contact must be limited at all costs. No handshakes according to politicians. No handshakes. So no kissing in public. No PDAs. Good thing for those conservative people out there. And the president of the Philippines suspected that he might have contracted the virus because during his speech, more than 1 hour speech, he was like coughing, and people were alarmed that, well, did our president contract the virus? Did our president get infected? We don't know. So I think there's this news that President Duterte decided to have himself tested in order to put an end to the idea or rumors that he might have been infected. So that's actually a hilarious incident during his speech on Thursday. I did not listen to it. I just learned it from the news or and social media that he declared lockdown. He even warned that it's not martial law that I declared. It's actually a quarantine, community quarantining of Metro Manila in order to contain or mitigate the spread of the virus outside of this region. So as much as possible, we need to make sure that we're not gonna spread out the virus. So if some people were infected in Metro Manila, in Taguig, for example, I live near Taguig. I'm in the boundary of Taguig and Makati. So in BGC, I think that's where the first case of reported coronavirus, is located. We don't know. We don't know. So, but according to news, there is a first case of coronavirus in the Philippines, and it happened in Taguig, where I work. Okay. So, other things that we need to do, for example, is not really to hoard. Okay. Hand sanitizer, if they're not alcohol based, they're not gonna help. Okay, make sure that it should be at least 70% alcohol. Okay, not the alcoholic beverage, but alcohol. Because according to experts, using alcohol 70% or 61 to 70% alcohol may kill the virus in 1 minute, more or less 1 minute. That's what I read from the news. Okay, so again, knowledge is power, and one thing that we need to do is self-responsibility. It's very important to be responsible during a crisis. So, um, responsibility entails proper hygiene, protecting ourselves, shielding ourselves from possible or from being vulnerable uh, to the virus. Okay, so making sure that we wash our hands every now and then, not to touch surfaces. So whenever we go to work, for example, usually a lot of people in Metro Manila um, use jeepneys as their main mode of transportation. So from jeepneys going to work, we might have gotten or touched some surfaces, or we might have gotten in contact, physical contact with others who might have been infected. So make sure not to touch your mouth, nose, and eyes, okay, during travel time, or before we go to work, for example, or after we go to work, or wherever we are. Make sure not to touch our face, because That's one of the ways to contract or to get infected. So, because again, this is an airborne virus, you might get infected through viral particles from coughing or sneezing or from touching others. So, do not spread the virus by being irresponsible. And this happened in the US after a basketball player, an NBA player, mocked the virus. Okay, mocked the virus for being ignorant. Like I said, don't be ignorant, don't be irresponsible as well. So you are irresponsible if you don't know the facts. Okay, if you think that the virus is something that you can simply ignore or not really, dread it at all. It's not really strong at all to affect you. Uh, this happened to this NBA player, Rudy Gobert. He mocked the virus by touching all the mics in that conference room in the US. So here's a video. Okay, there you go. So he touched all the mics in that conference room. This video is now getting like more than 800,000 views. And after that, after that, what happened? He got coronavirus. Okay, because he's so stupid, so ignorant, and well, according to Mark Cuban, he had this interview on Fox News, like criticizing or saying that this should be a lesson for everybody, not to mock or not to be ignorant and arrogant at the same time. Mark Cuban, um, an NBA owner, team owner of Dallas Mavericks, said that they're gonna help people out, those ordinary workers in the NBA, to still get their paycheck despite, canceling all the games and the season. So that's one thing that they're gonna do. So let's go back to the coronavirus. So what else can we do as individuals? A lot of things, for example. So for example, we don't know what to expect. Okay, so one thing is we don't know what to expect as individuals because the government did not release yet a clear and complete guidelines of the lockdown. Okay, are we going to be restricted from going out? What we all know today is that uh, the government of Duterte is going to use police power in order to implement this community quarantine. Okay, so they're going to use the PNP, Philippine National Police, in order to man checkpoints or traffic areas, uh, so that they may control the exit and inflow of people from and outside of the metro. So that's what we're gonna do according to the police. So in the case of my company, for example, what do companies need to do as well? So first thing that they need to do is make sure to get the contact numbers of their employees. And this is what my company did. They kept texting us, making sure that we are properly updated. So for example, because this lockdown is going to start tomorrow, my company is making sure that we have access to our COE, Certificate of Employment. So most employees, for example, if especially if your employer is or is a foreign company, okay, US based or whatever, it's based outside of the Philippines, it does not indicate the location. Your IDs, for example, what I mean is IDs, uh, does not indicate the location of your company. So although it bears the name of your company, but to make sure, my company decided to uh, ensure that we have access to our COE, Certificate of Employment, and this is mostly helpful for those residing outside of the metro, so that there should be no issue of going in the metro during the duration of this lockdown. So yeah, this is a good thing, and companies should do this as well in order to protect not just their business but also their employees. And so that's one thing. So if you're residing outside of the metro, make sure that you need to secure a COE. So if your ID is good, but that's just a backup plan. Okay, backup plan. So hoarding, is it good to hoard? Well, as long as you do it moderately, as long as you're not, it's not gonna cause panic, well and good. Make sure that you're gonna pack your kitchen or pantry with the necessary things you need throughout the month. But what is there to hoard if you don't have money? Kung hindi ka pumapasok na sa work dahil hindi ka na makapasok kasi nga hinarang ka na ng PNP sa checkpoints. So, for example, sa Bulacan or sa Cavite. So, yun yung mga downsides na kailangan natin isipin din. Alright, so other thing that we need to do is not to spread false information. So, for example, is it true that coronavirus can be eliminated or inactivated by high temperature? So, yeah, I've seen some kind of infographic like that galing sa mga co-employees ko. So it's not true. It's not true. There's no consensus that the coronavirus may get eliminated by high temperature. Ayon sa akin nabasa like 35 degrees Celsius. It's not actually true. So according to experts, it's actually false. The WHO has not said that temperature affects the spread of 2009 nCoV, and they don't recommend exposure to heat as protection or a treatment for the virus. So, walang katotohanan. There's no truth to the spreading to the rumor or to the news or whatever infographic out there that nCoV may get eliminated by high temperature or any temperature that's above 30 or 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, so one thing to do is always make sure to bring alcohol with you. Okay, spray alcohol, that's a must, it's needed. So whenever you sneeze, you might need to sneeze with a tissue, and after that you should wash your hand or spray alcohol on your hands to make sure that the virus is gonna get eliminated or deactivated. So kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, proper hygiene is a must. Okay, washing your hand well, not daily but regularly is a must, because that's the best way to kill the virus. The virus, according to experts, once it landed on surfaces, depending on the temperature, the humidity, or the nature of that surface, whether it be metal or fabric, may live up to hours or days. So cleaning is necessary. All right. So that's the nature of the virus that was invented, not really invented, but originated from Wuhan, China. So again, the symptoms are fever, cough, shortness of breath. Okay, so if you have all these symptoms, make sure to get tested and make sure to limit your physical contact with other people. So persistent pain or pressure pressure on the in the chest as well, confusion or inability to arouse. What? Bluish lips or face. So if you have all this, make sure to get tested. So it would take like 2 to 14 days after exposure for you to show all these symptoms. So you need to have a bluish lip or face for you to probably suspect that you may have been infected by the virus. So call your doctor if you have a regular doctor as well. So okay, let's go back to the issue of containment or the quarantine of the metro. So here we go. Duterte made an announcement Thursday, as I said earlier. So they're gonna use the Philippine National Police or the military to make sure that the lockdown is properly enforced. So this is an executive order. It's not an act of Congress. So the president can always suspend it at any time, or probably he can prolong or extend the duration of this community quarantine or lockdown. So let's go back to Twitter, our main source of information these days. So the reason why I'm showing the Twitter, okay, as we said earlier, and as we all know, the virus came from Wuhan in China. So how was it developed? Was it developed actually? We don't know. We don't know if it's developed or not. But according to um, stories from people or reports, it came from a flea market in Wuhan, and it's because of people eating bats or probably avian creatures, birds. We don't know, but there's this tweet from People's Daily China. This is state-funded, media in China. Okay, one of the main sources of information for the Chinese people. Um, in 2018, this is January 2018, or 2 years ago, China's first biosafety level 4 lab. There is a laboratory in China that has been put into operation in Wuhan. Okay, Wuhan, central China's Hubei. Um, and according to the tweet, it is capable of experimenting. This laboratory is capable of experimenting with highly pathogenic microorganisms. The lab will conduct research in antivirus drugs and vaccines. And this is very alarming and very interesting as well, because we know that there's a book. Okay, there's a book. It's actually a fiction book that tells the story of a laboratory in China near Wuhan that created a virus called Wuhan 400. So let me just so okay, this one is trending on Twitter now. Okay, this is where I got that story. Let me just check further. So it's trending on Twitter. The 30 virus is trending. My goodness. So baka matukhang to mga to pag pagkataon, no? But before that, Duterte keeps coughing during the press briefing, and he even joked that he might have contracted coronavirus. So galit na galit yung mga tao sa Twitter because of that. And where the hell is that? Yeah, alam ko to yung book na yon, yung there you go. So this is a book from a Western writer, The Eyes of Darkness, Leigh Nichols, that's the name of the author. And there is a passage in the book in which it says, and this was actually published in 1981, but it was amended or modified in 1989 to make, and there were changes made like the Wuhan virus, because first it was the settings of the book was in Soviet Russia or Russia, and the revision of the book in 1989 changed the settings to China. So, for example, there's a passage in the book in around 2020, which is this year. Again, this was revised in 1989. Why do I keep saying 2000? It's revised in 1989. So this passage in the book says in around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Okay, so as we all know, coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, is a respiratory virus, and it's attacking the lungs. And according to reports as well, once you contracted or you get infected with coronavirus, your lungs are gonna be damaged forever. We don't know if that's factual, but that's coming from reports and from experts as well. So, for example, the page 333 of the Eyes of Darkness. Okay, so Wuhan 400 is a perfect weapon. It inflicts only human beings. No other living creature can carry it. And like syphilis, Wuhan 400 can survive outside a living human body for longer than a minute, which means it can't permanently contaminate objects or enter places the way anthrax and other virulent microorganisms can. So the story is that we can relate this to the fact that there is a lab in Wuhan, and this laboratory is just near this marketplace or flea market where reports suspect that this virus originated from. Doon nanggaling, according to experts, yung virus doon sa market sa Wuhan. Pero tabi lang ng Wuhan market ay ang laboratory na binabanggit doon sa tweet ng People's Daily China. So, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. It's a fact that there is a lab in China just created in 2018 that can, create microorganisms, pathogenic microorganisms. And is it a coincidence that, this year 2020, this Wuhan virus, now known as COVID 2019, has just emerged? We don't know. Okay, what we know today is that we are on a lockdown. May lockdown na tayo, and we need to be responsible, citizens of this country. So make sure not to help spread the virus by being irresponsible or by being ignorant, by simply touching surfaces na pwedeng infected, like the NBA player did, who is now positive of the coronavirus. So make sure that we have proper hygiene. If there's something that we need to spread, is true knowledge about the virus para ma-prevent yung pag-spread ng virus, and so that we know what we need to do just in case worst comes to worst, we contracted the virus. So go to the doctor, be tested, and ang alam ko merong PhilHealth benefits pag nagkaroon ka ng virus na yan. Which is actually a good program on the part of the government kasi this is inevitable, okay? We cannot prevent the spread of the virus, we can only contain it. So, things we need to do during the duration of the lockdown, just to summarize or to recap, make sure if you're working outside of the Metro Manila, get a COE. Make sure that you show proof that you're working within the Metro or in a company inside Metro Manila. So make sure to bring alcohol with you all the time. Do not touch surfaces. So pag pumunta ka sa mall, wag humawak doon sa railing ng elevator or escalator. Okay? As much as possible, wag humawak. Pag humawak, do not touch your face. Okay? Once you touch any surfaces that is susceptible or that is susceptible to being touched by other people, okay, prone to being touched by other people, never touch your face.